I want to welcome everybody to today's training. Today we'll be talking about the basic attention discipline technique. One of the things I want you guys to remember when it comes to this technique is there's a principle. And the principle, one I've spoken to in the past, is if you've forgotten breath, then you've forgotten attention, which means you've forgotten everything that's important from a cognitive performance standpoint, from a conscious, willful ability standpoint. And this is going to be proven over and over again as you try out this technique. Over and over and over again, you're going to fail, and then you're going to realize just how little control you have over your attention throughout the day. And the more control that you get, the more your life is going to change in ways you cannot possibly comprehend right now. Because the mind that would reach out and try to think about what those changes would be, that mind can't even get into the areas where you're about to go. Thought cannot help you when it comes to this. Only attention can help you when it comes to this. The person who masters attention masters himself or herself. The person who masters attention has the ability to tap into their full potential. You cannot think your way into it. You can only attend your way into it. Attention is the essential phenomenon of will. It's the essential phenomenon of who you can become. This technique is how you're going to learn that. My name is T. Levon Lawrence. I'm your training instructor. I'm a neurosculpting certified mental fitness trainer, instructor, and consultant. I'm the author and the designer of the Neurosculpting Online Mental Fitness Training Studio. I'm also the author of the Brain Fitness blog at the Training Studio. I'm the host of the Mental Power Hour online radio show at blogtalkradio.com. If you ever want to listen to some great training episodes, because I don't do a talk show, I do a training show, although people can call in if they want, go to our Blog Talk Radio page, check out the archive of shows that have already been recorded. I'm going to be restarting live broadcasts soon as I can carve out another chunk of time, because things are really crazy right now. I mean, I asked for it, I've gotten to this level, and now I'm having to fight for extra time. But I will be starting up the show soon, so be sure to check back on that. The basic attention discipline technique has 4 measures of success, like all of our techniques. Now, on these 4 measures of success, the first one is skill acquisition based on your baseline measurements. Now, in this particular case, you don't actually need to do a baseline measurement. You're going to be using your training tracker, but mainly for the purpose of just taking notes. You're going to know you're getting better at this technique because you will simply know you're getting better at this technique. You're going to know because you're going to actually be paying attention to whether or not you're paying attention. If you're not paying attention, you're not going to know. And that's one of the great secrets of this technique. When you are not giving yourself full control of attention in the present moment, you're not consciously aware enough. You're not alive enough to know that you're having a problem. Only through absolute attention control in the present moment can you know that you know that you know that you're alive, that you're in control, and that you have the ability to do what it is you want to do in this world. Without that, you're at the mercy of habits. You're at the mercy of habits of attention, habits of thought, habits of emotion, habits of perception. You can't even perceive the world correctly without mastering attention in the present moment, without moment-to-moment attention control. Thought will never get you there. Only attention will get you there. So the first measure of success you're going to have with this technique is you're going to get better at it, and you'll know you're getting better, not because there's any particular measurement. You will simply know intuitively. The next measure of success is you're going to have knowledge acquisition based on the training that you do. There is knowledge that you're going to acquire through the practice and mastery of this method that you can never obtain any other way. There is no possible way to obtain the kind of profound knowledge and insight that you're going to acquire. There is no other possible way to get it except through this kind of a method. The greatest genius in the history of the world could never figure out what you're about to learn without going through this type of training. Symptom reduction based on your assessments. When you join the studio, there are some self-assessments you are supposed to do. Those self-assessments, the measurements that you have, you should get reductions in some of those symptoms. For instance, if your mind tends to wander a lot, especially if you have schoolwork or if you're on the job and you want to be more productive and you know that mental wandering is a problem for you, as you master this technique, mental wandering should cease to be such a problem. As a matter of fact, this kind of a technique, as you master it, you will grow to despise mental wandering. I mean, literally, it will just make you frown to even consider the matter. You will never see yourself as someone who drifts aimlessly. It won't make any sense to you. You will actually see the nature of the problem, and you won't want to be that person. And finally, practical application based on life applications. Now, this is one of those techniques that is going to have a profound impact on every area of your life as you begin to master it. There's no way for it not to have a profound technique, because as you get better at this technique, it is literally rewiring your brain structure, literally rewiring it in every major area of function, including the way you move your body, the way you think, your emotions, your tendencies and actions. You are literally rewiring your brain as you get better with this technique. So everything that you do on a daily basis is going to be affected by your mastery of this technique. You will not walk the same. You will not talk the same. You will not think in the same way. You will not go through the same repetitive emotional patterns. Over time, those things will change. They will get better because you will get better as a human being. Yet there's no way you can predict what's going to happen. Thinking about it, that kind of a map is certainly not the territory. In this case, thought can't tell you what's going to happen. You've got to simply go through it. You'll get better, you'll get smarter, you'll get wiser. That's how profound this technique is. Now, of course, there are mental, physical, spiritual, social, and financial perks to this technique. The kind of self-discipline that naturally evolves as a result of you doing this will prevent you from wasting money. You couldn't imagine yourself squandering resources when you have that kind of self-discipline. Your level of self-awareness will be so clear that bad habits which bother you right now will simply fall away. Remember, these things only come as you master the technique. At first, you're going to have a hard enough time just remembering to do the technique in the first place. Now, when you do this technique, this is optional. You have the choice of doing a preparatory statement. Now, the preparatory statement is a simple statement that you write out. It's a declarative statement that declares that this is your time, that this is your mind, that you'll tolerate no interference, and that there's nothing else more important. Now, the reason I say that a preparatory statement is optional in this particular case, unlike a lot of techniques where the preparatory statement really is mandatory because you need to put yourself in that state of mind just to do the training. The reason it's optional in this one is because it's not necessary, in that when you're doing the technique, you don't have to tell yourself these things. These things naturally flow out of the process of doing the technique. When you're doing the basic attention discipline technique, your time really is your time because there's no conflict. Your mind is wholly under your control when you're doing it correctly. You're not going to tolerate any interference because it's so easily detectable and so easily ignored and dismissed. You don't have to pump yourself up and fight interference. And of course, when you're doing the technique, nothing else is more important, because if anything becomes more important and takes your attention, then you're not doing the technique. So, let's talk a little bit about the basic attention discipline technique. The reason I call it basic attention discipline technique is because this is the one technique that you can do all day long, into the night, and apply it to everything. It takes work to be able to figure out how to apply it to everything, because there are some things that are so automatic for you, you can barely conceive of how to do it consciously. But it's something that you will do that will literally make you a master of attention, of mental concentration, and eventually a master of mental focus. Because when you are in control of attention all day long, you are doing something that very few human beings on the planet are able to do. You are commanding yourself. William James, over 100 years ago, wrote that effort of attention is the essential phenomenon of will. And most people never train their attention. They're never taught to. They're never told to. They develop autonomic attention habits, and then that's how they live their lives. But you are going to step out of autonomic attention habits, and you're going to forge a new brain patterns, and new attention patterns. This is a discipline, because you're going to do it every day. It's a practice. And it's basic because it's so simple. Now, you're going to maybe be telling yourself after you tried, well, it's simple, but it's not easy. And I can agree with that. But after a while, not doing it is going to be the difficult thing. You're going to discover, once you start to get good at this, you're going to discover that to not do it in your daily tasks is punishing. There are mental states and emotional experiences that you have right now that you never notice because they're so ingrained. And this process is going to get you to notice what your mind does all day long. And when you notice it, you're going to be shocked and you're going to be stunned, and you're going to want no part of some of the things that happens when in your own mind. You're not going to want to go through it anymore. And you're going to use this technique not to go through that stuff. The states you go through when you're procrastinating, the states you go through when you're angry and you're frustrated or you're fearful or you're worried or you're anxious, those states, you're going to use this technique not to go through that stuff anymore, to disconnect yourself from that stuff. And once you begin to become proficient at remaining disconnected from those negative mental states, those negative mental patterns, when you become proficient at that, you're never going to want to surrender your own mind back to those patterns. Those are default mode network patterns. That means they're wired into your brain. This is how you bypass the wiring, form new wiring so that you can operate in a different way. The basic attention control itself is one of the most powerful techniques you'll ever master. And again, the emphasis is on master. This is a discipline. You're going to have to practice it every day. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You do not have a choice in the matter. There's some training that I give you to where I tell you, hey, do it when you can. Make sure to schedule it. But the truth of the matter is, this technique, there's no choice. You'll either do it or it will fall away and you will forget about it and you will go off and live your entire life for the rest of your life and never learn what you're supposed to learn. There's some things, your default mode network, the default mode network of your brain is so powerful. It is able to sweep away all your dreams, all your goals, all your ambitions, and make you believe that whatever path you're on is the path that is meant for you. So once you begin this technique, you have no choice but to continue it, because if you stop, there's a high likelihood that you'll never get it back, unless for some reason you happen to go into training and you run into me and I ask you about it and I remind you about it, because most likely you're never going to run into anybody else who's going to tell you about this stuff. Now, this is one of the only approaches that you're going to do that's going to require you to maintain conscious and continuous control of your faculty of attention, of your attention bubble, of your attention lens. Now, you might have heard me talk about the attention bubble before, or the attention lens. Your consciousness, your ability to be aware of the world around you is like having a camera, a lens, or you can compare it to a bubble. Now, when you have a camera lens, the aperture, you can make it smaller or larger. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. When you do that, your consciousness, insofar as science defines it, goes with that operation. When you narrow in, your conscious awareness narrows in. When you expand the lens, when you expand the bubble, your conscious awareness expands. When you zoom in, your awareness zooms in or comes in. When you zoom out, your awareness, your ability to be aware of that you exist, that goes out. So as goes your bubble, as goes your lens, well, so goes you. Your ability to know that you know that you know that you exist. Now, this technique trains your brain's executive function, your ability to control your life, to set plans and goals, okay? To control you, to maintain your own habits. That's your executive function, which is essentially you, located in the forward part of your brain and your frontal lobes. It trains your executive function to use the one thing it has at its disposal to improve itself, and that is attention. You're using your executive function to maintain an attention target even while you're engaged in other activities. One of the reasons we go off course, one of the reasons that we veer right and left of course, one of the reasons we lose track of ourselves is that we don't maintain conscious attention when it comes time for us to do other stuff. Even you guys, when you're in training sessions and you're actually engaged in conscious control of attention, when you're done with the training session, many of you go off into the world and it's as though you never engaged in training in the first place, because you never applied what you learned in training to the other areas of your daily life. Well, now you're going to start applying it everywhere at every opportunity. That means you're going to be beefing up your frontal lobes. You're going to be strengthening your executive function, your ability for self-guidance, self-control, and self-command. Now, all our exercises and techniques are in certain categories. This technique is an attention control technique. Obviously, it's basic attention discipline, but it's also an intuitive technique. Remember, we have intellectual, intuitive, sensory techniques where you're using your body and your senses, and we also have attention control techniques. Now, the intuitive technique, the intuitive category, is where you begin to put together all other techniques, or all other of your mental functions, your intellectual functions, your sensory functions. This is where they all become integrated, and you start to be able to sense things, to perceive things in a much larger, more profound, deeper fashion. You start to know things that other people don't know. You perceive things that other people miss. This technique makes you the smartest person in the room at all times, because you're the only person in the room who really knows what's happening in the present moment with yourself and the world around you, with your environment. Everybody else is caught up in thought, caught up in patterns. Everybody else is a machine, and you're the only one in the room, most likely, who is awake and who is not being run by the software that's been established in the brain. What kind of areas are you going to improve in as a result of training this technique? You're going to get extremely proficient at controlling your attention. Your cognitive awareness, your ability to know that you know what's going on within yourself and in the environment around you, and even, I promise you this, you're going to know what's going on inside other people's minds. And I'm not talking about some weird esoteric mind reading thing. Human beings are duplicates of one another. They keep talking about individualism and that we're all so unique. Not mentally, guys. Mentally, there's just a bunch of carbon copies running around depending on the culture and the society you grew up in. That's going to be the only difference. You're going to be able to look at a person and watch them and know what's going on inside of them. And you're going to have empathy for other people because you're going to realize what they're going through because you've been through it. And you've walked through all that stuff and you've outgrown it and you've transcended it and gotten to another level of perception and ability. You've literally outgrown your old self, and so you understand other people. It's going to make you a more charitable human being. It's going to make you a nicer and kinder human being. But it's also going to make you a stronger human being when it comes to dealing with people's nonsense and their bull crap that has nothing to do with you, although they're always trying to get you caught up in it. Friends and relations and governments and societies are always trying to control you, and you're going to perceive it and you're going to know it and you're going to politely go, no thanks, and you're going to do it mentally. You're going to be the smartest person in the room. Highly likely, smartest person on the block, smartest person in town, because there's not that many people that know this stuff. And even in the neurosculpting mental fitness training studio, there are not that many people who are going to train with this technique and take it as far as they can go with it. Most of you, many of you, are going to test it out. You're going to run into the obstacles, and you're going to turn around the other way and go for something that's just a little bit easier for you. And I understand that. There are techniques, heck, there are only a few techniques you need in order to achieve most of the goals that you guys bring to me. You want to make a lot of money, you want to have a great business, you want to get a lot of sales, you want to get ahead in your career, you want to be a hit with the ladies. I understand that. You only need certain types of training to do that. If I give you just a few techniques and you master them, hey, you got it. You will go far in this world. But this technique changes everything. And so I don't expect most of you to continue on with it, but for those of you who want to be true mental masters, who want to occupy that rarefied air, that higher level that allows you to look out over the world and know yourself to be a master, this is the kind of technique you need. The psychological present moment. You're going to improve in your ability to be here now, to not walk around as a machine dominated by your habitual thought and emotional patterns, dominated by your habitual impulses and bad habits. You're going to be able to forge a new life, and that's going to happen because you're going to occupy a psychological and mental place that few people occupy that gives you the freedom of choice most people never have access to. you will find yourself in a position to make a choice whether to follow the impulse of a bad habit or whether to do the right thing that is good for you. Most people end up being compelled by impulses to go the well-worn path. You, on the other hand, are going to arrive at that fork in the road, and you're literally going to be able to choose to take the path less traveled. And you're going to be able to do it without punishment from your own mind. You're literally going to be able to get there and experience both possibilities and be free to go the right direction in order to build a new destiny for yourself. You're going to be a master over impulses. Nothing within your own mind and body will be able to compel you to do what is against your true will. Because again, you'll be a master of the psychological present, which will put you in a place where you can make the choice for freedom without being punished by your own mind. Most of us, when we have a choice between the chocolate we're not supposed to eat and the exercise we're supposed to do, we wind up doing the thing we're not supposed to do because to make the right choice punishes us psychologically. We are not going to have to worry about this as you get good at this technique. You're going to mitigate the problem of warpage. We talked about this in thought control training. Go and watch some thought control training if you want to get a handle on this one. It starts with thought warpage. The fact that your attention wanders from place to place habitually and you have to train it to stay on target is the precursor to the fact that your thoughts are constantly changing from moment to moment. And when you're not in control of your attention, you follow those thoughts as they change. And with every thought that changes, you forget about the thought that happened before because your attention is now totally taken up by the thought that is occurring right now. That thought becomes your reality because it totally controls your attention. Well, if that thought is constantly going to change, there's no consistency in thought. Now, there are thought patterns, but there's no consistency in thought. So when you set a goal, you come up with an idea of something that you want to do, a characteristic of personality that you want to integrate into yourself, a habit you want to pick up when you think of these things. The reason we so seldom achieve these things consistently is because what? Our thoughts warp from moment to moment. So you create this thought, an hour later, it's though the thought never existed. Because it warped into thought after thought after thought, 40, 50, 60,000 thoughts a day. Well, when you get good at this technique, you're going to know this is occurring. You're going to be able to reach back to any thought you initially created, and you're going to be able to bring it back to the stage of your conscious awareness and dismiss all other thoughts to the contrary. You will be able to focus. Your willpower will greatly expand. There is no limit to your willpower, your ability to command yourself. You will improve in your ability to execute your will. One, to learn what your will is. Your will is not what you think about. Your will is that which creates the thoughts, and only when you do it consciously. Most thoughts are not created by you. They're all handed to you mostly. When you take this kind of training, then you're in the place to be able to create your own thoughts, to be able to decide what your life is going to be. And you're going to be able to control your attention to hold it onto those thoughts and ideas only and not be distracted by other things or other people. You're going to have the awareness to know what's going on in your own mind. You're going to be able to stay in the present moment so that you can control your own impulses and only do what you've decided that you're going to do and not be punished because you're in conflict over these things. Your thoughts are going to become more consistent, and they're going to reflect what you really want to think, and you're going to be able to do what you want to do for your own life in this world. Now, benefits of mastering this technique. You're going to have stronger mental concentration, easily. You're going to be able to decide what to do in the moment and do it and defy all kinds of distraction. And you're going to enjoy what you're doing. I don't care if you dig ditches for a living, if you carry firewood from the forest back and forth, if you're laying concrete in the hot sun, you're washing dishes at a restaurant. Whatever it is you're doing, if it's something you're going to have to do, you'll begin to enjoy it because you're able to concentrate your mind. And when your mind is concentrated, it is interested in the thing that you're doing. It is a natural result. You're going to have increased mental endurance. Why? Because you're training with this technique all day long. And one of the things you'll be able to do is to detect why you get tired mentally, why you get tired physically, why you get stressed out. You're going to be able to perceive these things now because you're not allowing your attention to just go wandering off into the default mode network. You're going to know what's going on within and with yourself. Isn't that amazing? Don't you want to know what's really going on so that you can fix it? And I'm promising you this. If you can keep your attention in your own grip, you will begin to get more energy automatically, feel more cheerful, feel peppier at the end of the day, because you will not have expended unnecessary energy fighting with yourself all day long in your own mind with those conversations that go on constantly. Most of the energy you burn in the day is due to lousy diet and because your mind is constantly on the run. When your mind's not constantly on the run, you will have more energy. Stress reduction and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is literally a scientific term now in psychology. It is your ability to master your emotions so that you can consistently enjoy an emotional experience that's positive and uplifting. An end to the type of negative thought patterns that kick off stress and anxiety that kicks your butt all day long. An end to that stuff. An end to the strange desire to engage in those types of theatrics, that type of drama. You will literally begin to despise being involved in that sort of mental pollution. You will not want to watch the kind of news that you may be attracted to right now. There's nothing changing in this world. The news stays the same for thousands of years. You know what's going on without ever turning on the television because the moment you turn it on, there it is. Same as it was 10, 20, 100, 1,000 years ago. And it's not going to appeal to you. Negative conversations from other people, not going to appeal to you. You are going to wind up changing some of your friends. You're going to attract other friends who you never would have hung around before, people who are on the level that you want to get to. They will naturally be able, they'll know you'll be giving off a new vibe. And they will seek you out because it's not common to have a person live life the way that you're about to start living it. They're going to want to be around you. And you're going to know that they're the kind of person that you want to be around. Remember, water seeks its own level. Low-level people, when their psychology is on a low level, they seek out low-level people. They despise high-level people because high-level people remind them of just how lousy their mental life is. And, of course, people who live on a high mental level don't want to hang around people who live on a low mental level because they've been there, done that, they've outgrown it. So, you're going to have better mental focus. You're going to begin to move in a straight line to your target. You're going to move in a straight line to your target. Never again will you be the kind of person who wanders right and left their course and who forgets what it is they are in this world to do. And of course, that all results in improved self-discipline. When you say you're going to do something, it gets done. To the best of human potential, it gets done. And of course, because you have self-discipline, you no longer allow other people to pull you off course. You let other people mind their own business and you stay focused on yours. So, you're going to think with greater clarity. Now, some of you, I have some students, I have some scientists, engineers, a few physicists, and some physicist wannabes. I've got doctors, lawyers, and engineers. Now, here's the thing. Many of you come to me, and you've got grand mental ambitions. And when you come to me, you always describe it in terms of thought. You want to be Einstein. You want to be Tesla. You want to be the greatest creative genius in the history of mankind. You study this stuff. And I'm telling you this technique will teach you when not to think, will teach you the nature of thought, and will give you the ability to do what an Einstein or a Tesla could do. Now, it will not give you their native biological intelligence. You have your own. And that's enough. They can't make your brain like somebody else's brain. That's impossible. But you will be able to take advantage of your own natural brain wiring and begin to think with efficiency and clarity. You'll be able to have enhanced creativity and problem-solving ability. Most of the barriers that you encounter when it comes to solving problems and getting over obstacles and humps and getting to solutions, most of the barriers are biological and habitual. You're going to solve the biological barriers by training with this technique. And you're going to solve the habitual problems because if you can just shut down that rambling noisemaker in your brain, you will have access to your deeper creativity. You will have access to your subconscious ability to perceive new approaches and new ways and new connections to things. You literally, and it will come to you in a flash in unexpected times. If you really strain to try to solve a problem, you may come to some type of solution. But this technique will allow you to disconnect from that compulsion to strain at solving a problem and be able to let go and allow your brain to do its job. And the next thing you know, boom, there's the solution. And nobody else in the crowd could have thought of it because nobody else has the knowledge to be able to do it. I told you, you're going to acquire knowledge that few people in the world have. Now, higher efficiency. You're going to stop operating mindlessly. You're going to start doing things the right way, the best way. You're going to seek out and desire to find out how to do things in the best way. You're going to want to know how something can be done better, more profitably, more efficiently, to the benefit of more people. You're not going to be satisfied merely with going with the status quo just because it was done that way in the past. You're going to stop making clumsy mistakes. Matter of fact, you're going to stop being clumsy in the first place. Your conversations, the types and levels of conversations that you have, they're going to be more profitable for you. Amazingly, you're going to shut up finally when there's no need to talk. You're going to have no interest in unprofitable conversation. That's why your friends are going to change. That's why your associations are going to elevate. You're going to be able to walk into any position, any job, any business, and make a contribution. It's an amazing thing, and it's all going to happen naturally because you're rewiring your brain. Self-confidence and poise. When you're in control of yourself in the present moment, there is no such thing as a lack of self-confidence. A lack of self-confidence, a lack of poise, is entirely thought and emotion based. When you're in control of your mind, by way of being in control of your attention, those habits are not a problem for you. Self-confidence and poise is a natural outcome of simply being in control of your attention. And the longer you practice, the more you apply it to every area of your life, the more confidence and poise you're going to have. Confidence is not something you think about. You cannot think your way into confidence. Confidence is a lack of thoughts that cause you to feel a lack of confidence. Without those thoughts, you have no problem when it comes to poise and confidence. And of course, you're going to have better performance in all other techniques. Now, that's not to say that if you get good at this technique, you're going to be able to break out that basic mental object retention and just master it instantly. But you will have mastery of the attention component of that technique. If you're not great at visualization, you're still going to have to practice the visualization part, but at least your mind's not going to wander. You'll be able to literally sit there and work on the visualization portion without becoming frustrated and your mind wandering. So you will get better at other techniques because you will control the attention component and the relaxation component. Because many of you write me or call me and you tell me, man, I'm getting these headaches, I'm all tense and everything. I'm like, well, why are you getting tense? The technique tells you to maintain relaxation. Well, that's because you're trying to press through. Well, this technique is going to actually not only help you control the attention components of other techniques, but the relaxation component. Because during this technique, you're going to be adjusting your attention bubble, your lens of attention, to notice what's happening in your body, not just your mind, but your body. And you'll be able to let it go, shake it out. And if let's say you're a professional athlete or a golfer, this is what happens when a person like a Phil Mickelson or a Tiger Woods or someone steps up to and they got to sink a 20-foot putt on the 18th to win the Masters. This is what they're taught to do. To shake off the physical tension by controlling attention itself, to center themselves. And that centering gives them the ability to know what's going on in their body and shake it off. And that's when they are clearing the mechanism, so to speak, and the world fades away and there's only them and the task to be done. And they're able to do it a majority of the time very well. So, your perceptual focus when you're doing this technique is you're going to be close up onto your body. That means you're going to be paying attention to your breathing. So the lens of your attention, the bubble of your attention, is going to be focused onto your body, your breathing. That's close up. You see the little red circle on the lady there. But also, it's going to be panoramic onto your body because remember, you're kind of monitoring to make sure you don't have the kind of physical tension that can make the technique uncomfortable. When I call it land and expand. You're going to land on your breathing with your attention. You'll land on your breathing, and then once you have your breathing down, okay, then you're going to allow your attention bubble to expand out so that you can detect what's happening in your body. And when you detect tension, whether it's at the back of your legs or your toes or your shoulders, you're just going to shake it out. Relax your breathing a bit more. Shake it off. Let the tension flow out. So that's the panoramic focus. And then you're going to expand your attention bubble out so that you can, and you're going to be flexible in this now. You're going to be going back and forth from your breathing to your body, out into your environment, and even down a little to a task. Let's say you have a task where you have to type out something. Well, of course, your bubble is not going to be huge. It's going to narrow down to where you can do your typing or your reading or whatever you're doing. But you're going to be flexible because you're going to be going back and forth. How's my breathing? Okay, how's my body? Now back to the task. And it's going to happen so fast that you're really not going to notice much of a difference, okay, after you've done it a while. At first, it might be a little bit jarring, and we'll get into that later. But eventually, you'll be able to do this effortlessly. It'll be natural to you. Now, every technique that we do has some kind of mental exertion. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights or running on the treadmill or doing the exercise bicycle, push-ups, sit-ups. You're exerting your mind, your brain. Now, the kind of exertion that this one is going to give you, attention directing. Directing your attention is a type of mental exertion. You're pressing yourself to direct your attention where you want it to go. But also, you're going to be holding your attention. It's like being at the gym, lifting a weight, and holding it out in front of you. There's work to be done there. Energy is being burned. Now, the application level of this, there are three types of mental concentration. For this one, you're going to be concentrating on the task. Now, there are multiple tasks in this eventually. The first task is breathing. Your task is to give attention, to provide attention to what's happening with your breathing. You're monitoring your attention. That's task concentration. But you're also going to be giving attention to whatever task you're doing while doing this. When you start off, you're going to simply be worried about attention onto breathing. But you're going to integrate a task, whether it's typing, reading, or whatever. So you're going to be stretching your attention bubble out. That's task concentration, but it's also self-concentration, because you're going to have to fend off the temptation to wander into thought, to communicate with yourself through self-talk. You're not supposed to be talking to yourself while you're doing this technique. Why would you be talking to yourself? That's not your task. Your task is to attend. Your task is to monitor breathing while driving, while playing golf, whatever it is you're doing. So you'll also be getting this also applies to your life as a whole, because everything you do while you're mastering this technique is going to affect your life. You are rewiring your brain. And so it's going to have a profound effect all the way across. Now, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need to use your training tracker, or if you want to use a journal, that's okay. I prefer the training tracker because the training tracker is designed for you to be able to track your date, the type of technique, your experiences, how long you did it, and that sort of thing. You don't need a timer for this unless you want to create a safety net, because I'm telling you, you're going to forget over and over and over again throughout the day that you're supposed to be doing this technique, because you're going to be switching back and forth between conscious attention control and the default mode network. Your default attention is going to want to take over all the time. And remember, when you're in default mode, you are not consciously aware, not truly. You don't even know that you're alive when you're in default mode. You're just going about your day like a robot. You don't know that you know that you know that you're alive until you stop and take a breather and go, whoa, hey, you'll drive all the way to work, get off on exits, go through dangerous traffic, get to work, go to sit to your desk without ever realizing that you even drove to work. It happens all the time. You'll walk down a sidewalk for a mile and never even realize that you were walking because you were caught up in thought or something like that. So you should create yourself some safety nets. You can use timers, alarms, you can paste Post-it notes around. You can recruit people you trust to every once in a while, hey, what are you doing? Have them remind you of what you said you wanted to do. You can create these safety nets. And believe me, I did it, and even now I do it. In my Microsoft Outlook on my computer, I get deeply into work, and I concentrate. But even then, I can get concentration itself has become a mental habit for me. So my default mode network has integrated mental concentration into itself because of all the training. So I have to make sure that every once in a while something goes off, an alarm or my Microsoft Outlook alerts me, hey, where are you right now? And I realized I just concentrated for 3 hours. I was just amazingly productive, but I was not consciously productive. I concentrated without being conscious. And remember, the definition of mental concentration, it must be conscious. What is it if it's not conscious? What does it matter? It wasn't conscious. So, create yourself some safety nets, then you can use a timer if you need to. To begin the technique, you may have to pre-plan because you are using safety nets, some of you. You may have to pre-plan your technique. That means you may have to have your safety nets already in place. So maybe the night before you do the technique, if you're going to be doing it all day, you go ahead and you take care of those things. But the safety nets are there to be able to snap you out of your automated mindset so that you can get back on track. And remember, this is good. Why? Remember, I told you this is going to help your mental focus, is because you're going to be well practiced at getting back on track. Anytime you use this technique, you are back on track. If you've been in the habit lately of losing focus of what you're supposed to be doing, who you're supposed to be trying to become, you're going to use this technique as your fallback to getting back on track. If like I've been getting plenty of calls over the past few weeks, hey T, man, I'm really off track in my business. I keep losing focus. What can I do? That's why I got this technique together. This is the technique you can do. If you're off track and you write me, I'm going to tell you, hey, basic attention discipline technique. Because anytime you're doing it, you are the person you need to be to do what you need to get done. Now, when you first try this, for say the first few days, give it some practice. Give yourself 15, 30 minutes to give it a shot. Because if you go and you try to do it immediately by doing it all day long, you're going to have to figure out the problems. Well, why don't you go ahead and do that in the privacy of your own home maybe? Just sit quietly and do this technique. And then when you got a good feel for it, give yourself a couple days maybe. Or even maybe you figure it out the first time. That's cool. But try it in your home first. Then go ahead and try to incorporate a task into it. Do this technique while you're getting dishes in the dishwasher, if you have a dishwasher, while you're getting dressed in the morning. Now, this is one you may need to set up a safety net. When you wake up in the morning, immediately your mind wants to start running and racing around. Have a note right next to your bed. Hey, you're going to try basic attention discipline right now. And then you can start it. Getting up and getting dressed, do this technique. Showering, do this technique. When you sit down to breakfast, lunch, dinner, do this technique. And when I describe the technique, you're going to realize just how cool it is because the start of the technique prepares you for it. So, now, one of the things I'm a little hesitant about is because this is a mastery technique. And I wrote here, like, when you feel like you understand how to carry it out, then you can go ahead and take it out into daily life and use your whole life for training so it'll transform your results. Here's the thing about that. When you first sit down for 15, 30 minutes and just check it out, test it out a bit, and then you go and you start washing dishes and doing it, getting dressed, putting on your clothes, walking the dog maybe, okay? When you first do those things, you're going to have some profound experiences, and some of them are going to be frustrating. If you find this technique to be overly frustrating, don't immediately try to take it out into your daily life and do it, because that's only going to increase your frustration. When you can do something simple like washing the dishes or fixing a meal or even frying up a few things in the kitchen, when you can wash the car maybe, or well, I wouldn't say mow the lawn, but go ahead if you want to. When you can do something like that and not be frustrated when you begin to understand what a challenge it really is? When the frustration is over with, then go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to take it out the door with me and I'm going to apply it to work. That will cut down on the shock and awe that will come otherwise. Because I don't want you, because again, remember, there's only a few of you who's going to continue with this technique because you're going to find it too profound, some of you. And you're going to want to go back to the simple mental concentration and attention control stuff. But for those of you who do want to really get into mental mastery, overcome the frustration of the small things, then go ahead and take it into the bigger things. You'll have a much easier time at it. Your three main challenges when you do this technique: breath monitoring. Remember, your attention bubble is going to be on your breath. And all I want you to do is just monitor it. This is not the point where you have to control it. When you first start it, just see if you can monitor it. Now, you're going to have mental obstacles, of course, and we'll get into that here shortly. But it's so simple. Just monitor your breath. 15, 30 minutes. Pay attention to your breath. Nothing special. Now, you may notice some tension in your body. No problem. Expand your bubble a little bit. Shake it out. Ease up. Breathe deep. Relax. Chill, so to speak. Your next challenge is breath control. Now that you're able to monitor your breath, try to control it now. You're going to literally, consciously detach control away from your default mode network because you've been breathing on your own for years and years and years and years without ever really trying to. Now you're going to drive your breath. You're going to breathe in and you're going to breathe out. Nothing special. I'm not going to hassle you to say, oh, well, I want you to breathe like a balloon up, from the bottom of your diaphragm up. No. All you're going to do is breathe in and out. Much simpler than the breathing concentration technique, right? For those of you who tried the breathing concentration technique. This is much simpler. You're monitoring, and now you're just going to breathe in, and you're going to breathe out, and you're going to relax your body. That's it. But I did call it a challenge, right? That's because it is a challenge. Remember, you're going to forget over and over and over and over again. And then they're going to have to get back on it. Your safety nets, you're going to use those. Or you'll simply remember. And you're going to feel a little bit silly and laugh at yourself, guys. Don't take it so seriously. Allow yourself to chuckle. Be cheerful about it. And then get back on it. Your third challenge is going to be integrating action while monitoring or controlling your breath. You're going to need to actually do tasks while doing it. And again, there's two ways. You can wash those dishes, mow that lawn, get dressed while merely monitoring your breath. Or you can go ahead and control your breath while doing these things. Now, I have the scientific studies that indicate that this stuff has a profound impact on brain wiring. This is the stuff that the monks up in the Himalayas, these guys are doing this stuff. And you're going to do it, but without all the spiritual mumbo jumbo and the esoteric nonsense. You are doing literal brain training, just like an athlete. You are a mentathlete, a mental athlete. So your three challenges: monitor your breath, control your breath, and then take action, do tasks while either monitoring or controlling. If you have a harder time controlling, stick with the monitoring for a while and then go ahead and control. And that's all you got to do. And it sounds simple, but oh my goodness, wait till you do it. First thing you're going to do is attend to your breathing. It's a simple task. Just direct your attention to your breathing. Put your bubble on your breath. Hey, that's a good, I got to remember that. Put your bubble on your breath. There's no point at this point in trying to control anything. No need to. Because while you have your bubble on your breath, you're already controlling what? You're controlling attention. Don't worry about controlling your breath at this point. Just keep attention onto the breath itself. If you wanted to, there would be no need to take this exercise any further, because the longer you do it, the more difficult it's going to become, because your brain is going to scream bloody murder that you're not letting it run the show for you. You are executing your will merely by holding attention onto your breath. Effort of attention is the essential phenomenon of will. You are enforcing your will. Remember, this is the beginning of self-command, of true self-mastery, with something as simple as attention. Now, the next thing is to hold your attention bubble onto your breath, the lens of your attention. Your target is your breath. You're holding it there. Remember the types of exertion: directing and holding. And you're not going to allow yourself to get caught up in self-conversations. I know I get complaints all the time. Yeah, but my mind won't shut up. No problem. Your job is not to shut your mind up. Your job is to stay on target. The voice inside your head will eventually shut up, slow down, and then shut up on its own. And when you first experience that, you're going to go, wow, and then start talking to yourself again, and then you got to start all over. But yeah, just hold it there. And when your mind tempts you to start talking to itself, or to go drifting off into thought, just decline. Don't do it. There's no requirement for you to do that. You will feel a physiological impulse, a physical urge to allow your attention to wander, to go off into conversation. Whoop-de-doo, who cares? It's just a physical sensation. Stay on target. Then you're going to expand your attention bubble, expand the aperture of your lens. When you're feeling comfortable, you've landed, and now you're going to expand it. Okay? You're going to flexibly stretch your attention bubble out so that you can detect your body, because you want to know if you're tense or not. All right? Without losing perception of your breath. You never want to lose breath. Nothing should cause you to lose breath. If you lose breath, hey, go back to breath first, and then go ahead and expand your bubble when you're comfortable. Next, you're going to extend your bubble so that you can go ahead and get ready to carry out a simple task. Start out with simple tasks at first. Just walk around the room. Walk down the block. Walk around the backyard. March in place, whatever. You're going to do a simple task. And I call it extending your bubble. I call it extending your bubble because you're going to need to go back and forth with your awareness so that you know what's happening with the task and what's happening with your breathing at the same time. Now, the next step is to operate your attention bubble. Now, when you're operating your attention bubble, this is when you're in the act of conducting a task and carrying out some action. That means you're going to carry out the task while still controlling your attention bubble. You never want to forget the fact that you're breathing. If you've forgotten breath, then you've forgotten attention, which means you've forgotten everything that's important. And if you've forgotten everything that's important, you are a victim to the default mode network of your brain, and you're in whatever happens because of that, well, that's just normal and natural. That's the way your life has been going. Those are the patterns that you've been walking. So, the key to success in this is simple. Breath always comes first. Breath always comes first, except in the case when there's safety at risk. I don't want you putting yourself at risk if you don't know what you're really doing with this if you don't really know what you're doing with this technique. If you're a circus performer and you juggle live chainsaws and knives, I don't want you doing this technique until you've mastered it, okay, while you're juggling your chainsaws and your knives. But in most other cases, breath comes first. You will succeed if you remember that whatever you're doing, just go ahead and go first to breath, then go ahead and expand your attention bubble out. In most cases, you can still do what you're already doing without losing perception of it, because all you're doing is using your intuitive senses. You're combining your ability to feel, your sensory faculties. You're combining your ability to feel and detect yourself breathing. If you're driving a car, you can still drive effectively while doing that. And once you've locked back on the breath, then you go ahead and expand yourself out. You're expanding your conscious awareness. Now, here's how I know you can drive and do this. Because most of the time when you're driving, you're not there in the car anyway. You're off daydreaming someplace. So, of course, you can do this technique, because this technique requires you to be in the car with yourself. You can do this while cooking because it requires you to be in the room with yourself. You're not allowed to drift off into daydreaming. You can even do it while in conversation with other people. That's when you're getting into the real challenge right there. Because right now, most of you, when you're talking with other people, you're not truly there. It's two machines just gabbing back and forth trying to impress one another. When you're mastering this technique and you're talking to another person, it's an entirely different conversation then. So, breath comes first. That's the answer. That's the key to your success. That is the priority. Remember, this technique is so effective because it places you back in the psychological present, in the present moment, in the here and now, and places you back in control of yourself. It only takes moments to detach from negative mental patterns. It only takes moments to get yourself out of that funk, out of that anxiety and that worry and that fear. It only takes moments. And this is the technique that will do it for you. It only takes moments to free yourself from bad influences, from people who are no good for you. You want personal power? You want to be in charge of the moment, in charge of yourself? This is the technique that will get you there. It only takes a few moments to immerse yourself into a creative flow. If you've got to outthink the norm, if you've got to think outside of the box, it only takes a few moments to get there. This is the kind of technique that prepares you to be in that mental state, to clear away the noise, to clear the mechanism, to free up your subconscious mind to give you the answers you need. Only takes moments to be okay again, guys. I don't know what you're feeling from time to time, because the emails I get, I really feel for some of you. But the answer is not to desperately chase after this and chase after that. What you really want is to not feel lousy in that moment, which will place you in a position to be able to take effective action. This is the technique. If you want to feel okay and capable to take some action right now, this only takes moments. Get yourself feeling centered again, of being centered again. This is the technique. Only takes moments to realize self-command and self-rule, to be in charge of you. Only takes moments. And it only takes moments to get back on track when you're off track. This is the approach that will do it for you. And all you have to do is do it over and over and over and over again. I've been in the phone calls, I've been in the training where people are like, man, I just can't believe I keep falling off the horse. I'm not studying the way I'm supposed to. I'm not going through the courses the way I'm supposed to. I'm not saving the money the way I'm supposed to. And we just talked last week. Why do I keep going around in circles? I need to get back on track. If you want to stop going around in circles of weaving right and left, if you want some mental focus and to perceive what throws you off track so that you can decline to be thrown off track, this is the kind of technique that will do it for you. You have to do it over and over and over again. That's why I'm asking you to get to the point of mastery, to where you practice this all day long. Because if you're practicing this all day long, all you've got to do is name your destination and you will get there. There will be nothing to stop you. You will get there. You want to make that large financial fortune? You want to build that big business? You want to do well in school? You want to walk that straight line? This is what you need. The answer is always right now in this moment, and this is the technique that gets you there. Land and expand. Breath is your salvation. So, you're going to have some resistance while you're doing this technique, and the main thing you're going to run into is something I call phasing. Phasing is the experience, what you experience from shifting between your autonomic attention and your conscious attention control. It's like waking up over and over and over again. You didn't even realize that you were asleep. You're going to experience this. It's a jarring experience, shocking sometimes. But the more you train, the easier it's going to be on you. You'll be able to flow quietly and serenely back into your peak performance state. Like if you're driving a car right now down the highway, and then suddenly you realize that for the last 10 miles you were off somewhere, that's a jarring experience. As you get good with this technique, you will actually detect when your mind is trying to hypnotize you into drifting off, and you'll be able to decline it. But in the rare instance that you actually submit and you drift off, when you realize it, it won't be a shocking experience. It'll be humorous, and then you'll go back to where you want to be, and then you will work to stay there rather than drift off. Because remember, as you get good, you're going to despise drifting, because you're going to realize how painful, how unproductive it is. You're going to realize why that Harvard University study last year, why it actually said that mental wandering equates to unhappiness. Because those 2,000 people they had in that study who were mentally drifting nearly 50% of their entire day, even while engaged in attention-demanding tasks, those people reported that while the majority of time while they were drifting mentally, they were in a state of unhappiness. Now you're going to know why you don't want to drift mentally, and you're going to know why you're so motivated to get good at this technique and use it all day long. Again, the key, breath comes first. Now, normally when I talk about overcoming mental resistance, there's a lot more detail than this, but I'm not going to really go through it all that much. You know that there are, the other thing, you're going to feel the impulse. I think I've mentioned this before. You're going to feel the urge to turn over to your autonomic nervous system. Your mind is going to try to compel you to give yourself back over to it. And you're going to notice this most of the time when you are about to engage in a task. Like, for instance, if you're doing this technique and you're about to wash dishes, you will suddenly realize that you were rushing. If you're walking the dog, you'll suddenly realize that you were rushing and trying to hurry it up. You will literally feel your mind attack you to basically telling you, hey, I got this. I don't need you interfering with me. I'm your brain. I know what I'm doing. Give it back to me. You're going to feel that. That is a distraction. And all you got to do is when you detect it, just ignore it. Only your target matters. Breath comes first. So now, the one thing I do want to talk about is applying this to real life scenarios. This is real important because eventually as you're training this technique, you're going to take it to work with you. You're going to take it into social situations and every other opportunity. It's real important. You're going to practice at every opportunity because like in the movie The Peaceful Warrior, if you've never saw it, it's got Nick Nolte starring in it. He states there are no ordinary moments. There's always something going on. There are a few of you who I've spoken to, and you talk about your boredom with your job and your boredom with your home life and the people you're married to, and boredom. And I've spoken to you that as you start to get control of your attention and direct it, the one fundamental is what you pay attention to, you will become interested in. And with this technique, you're going to discover something so profound, I don't know how long it's going to take for you individually. But you're going to be stunned at what happens to your perception once you've been in the present, the psychological present for a long enough period of time. It may take hours, I don't know. It may take days, it may take weeks. But there's going to come a point where it hits you like a sledgehammer that there's something more to this existence, to this experience, than what you have been experiencing up to this point. And at some point, you're going to experience that so much that it's going to become normal for you. You'll never look at another sunset the same again. You'll look at flowers and you won't just walk by them. You will literally see them. The grass will be greener, the sky bluer, the beautiful things more beautiful to you. And you will start to find beauty in even the most mundane things. You will find pleasure in areas you've never found pleasure before. It's like becoming a child again from a perception standpoint because it's now starting to hit you in a new way. So there are no ordinary moments. There's always something going on. And so with you in every area of your life, you're going to find opportunities to apply this technique. When you're watching television, even when you're distracting yourself, you can be training. That way, your distractions are no longer distractions. Your distractions become effective training tools for you. Do this technique when you're trying to waste time. That way you're no longer wasting time. You're actually growing and expanding. Surfing the internet, a perfect time. Some of you surfing the web, watching videos, stuff like that, reading blogs, that's a time where you can use this technique. Reading, perfect time. Most of our reading is as mindless as when we're watching television. Perfect time. When you're working at your desk. Now remember, I want you to feel comfortable with it at home first with simple things before you take it into the workplace. Now, if you're feeling adventurous and you're willing to risk a little bit of frustration, you go on ahead with it. But when you're ready, take it into your workplace. Become that more efficient person. See why it's so difficult to manage your time. Time management is self-management. The reason people can't manage their time is because they haven't managed themselves. When you manage yourself, you automatically manage your time. When you're eating meals, oh my goodness, what a great time to practice this. When you're out with friends, eventually you will be able to take this technique out with you, and that's when things are really going to change from a social standpoint. And again, there are going to be some shocking things. You're going to, you will wind up changing some friends. And some friends will not want to be around you, and you're going to be grateful for that. People are going to walk into your life who you never would have expected, and they're going to be amazing. When there's nothing to do, guess what? You've got something to do. You will never have an excuse to be bored because this technique is a game changer for you. Now, I think that is it. Again, my name's T. Levon Lawrence. I'm a neuroSculpting certified mental fitness training instructor and consultant. You can email me at trainer@neurosculpting.com if you have any questions. Of course, our basic phone number is 904-638-3851. If you know any business people who are considering having mental training integrated into their platform, hey, give them our consultation line, which is 877-77-THINK. And of course, if you're on Skype, make sure to make a contact request with us. Our Skype ID is dynamic.mental.fitness. Again, guys, I knew it was going to be jam-packed. The truth is, I actually cut it short, okay? I did cut it short. I actually had about another 30 minutes worth of stuff to talk about, but, you know, I'll put it into another training. I'm sorry I don't have time for questions right now, but if anybody does have a question, email it to me today. If I don't get back with you by phone, I'll get back with you by email. I appreciate everybody coming out, and thank you for attending the training.